Touchdown, Pittsburgh!
Touchdown, Washington!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Steelskin Show, a show hosted by one diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan and one diehard Washington Redskins fan, from game recaps, game previews, news headlines, analysis, opinions, and all kinds of other stuff. We've got you covered on all things Pittsburgh Steelers and Washington Redskins. My name is Patrick. I'm the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm Chris, the voice of the Washington Redskins.
Yeah. Chris, how you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
Do you smell it? The smelly smell? It smells smelly. Does kind of smell like fried chicken. I get a little bit of a hint of fried chicken.
Well, we had cube steak.
Oh, okay,
tonight.
That's good. I had cube steak last night.
We had cube steak tonight.
Brother.
So,
good
yeah.
stuff. Cube steak is one thing I'm smelling, and that's a good thing to smell. But, Chris, I'm smelling a little Steelers and Redskins football. Yeah, you smell it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good smell. I'd wear it as deodorant.
Sorry.
No, dude, don't be sorry. I'd put that stuff on, rub it all over my body, and wear it as cologne. Hey, man. That's how you know you live in North Carolina right there.
Yeah.
Everybody from the North is going to be like, oh.
That's really bad.
These guys. So, Chris, excited?
Yeah, I am.
I mean, we're not. Look, we're not talking about this Hall of Fame game stuff. Real football starts.
Yeah,
this week.
I mean,
Steelers
I think
Redskins, baby.
I look at the preseason football to me is preseason football to me is the 4 games really equal 1 game.
Sure, no, I agree.
Because the way they stage the players.
Yeah, definitely.
And how they stagger them. First quarter. First game they play, starters play a series or two.
Yeah.
Second, and that. But this is the first step.
This is it, baby.
Step 1.
This is it, baby.
You know?
We'll be watching it live there on the Game Pass. I think the Steelers are going to be on NFL Network on Friday. You guys play tomorrow. We play Friday. You guys play
we play tomorrow night.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things we do want to talk about here in tonight's episode is just a preseason preview. One of our flagship shows here on the Steelskin Show is a preview show when our teams are about to have a matchup, but obviously we're not going to do an in-depth preview show for the preseason. What we do want to talk about is just kind of what we're looking for. What do we want to see out of our teams this preseason? What players are we going to be looking at closely? That type of thing. But before we do that, we do want to have a quick news headline discussion.
Okay. I see what we're doing. I saw what you did.
Yeah. I'm subtly slipping. I'm subtly giving you a hint to ask me something.
Patrick, it broke today.
Actually, like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. In fact, I was eating a bite of cube steak when it hit. But the NFL has reinstated Martavis Bryant?
Yeah, reinstated is right. So I'm sitting there like you. I'm down there at the kitchen table. I'm doing something, and ESPN, Martavis Bryant reinstated. I'm like, hot dog, baby. Here we go. Oh, he has been conditional. Okay, he's already conditionally reinstated, folks. All he did was just get bumped up another level in the conditional reinstatement process. Tone down your excitement. He's only able to participate in practices and preseason games. He still has not been fully reinstated to play in regular season games.
All right, well, let me ask you this. And I know that more will come in the next few days on this thing.
Sure.
But do you think the NFL is sort of doing this in stages to make sure they can get Bryant to the regular season without having some kind of a hiccup?
I mean, dude, you've had over a year. I mean, I guess I understand what you're saying, but you've had over a year to...
No, I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if you're going to reinstate the guy, reinstate the guy.
Just do it. And look, I'll tell you, look, I don't want to be this guy. I don't ever want to be this guy, but I am going to be this guy for a second. I'll tell you a situation I'm monitoring very closely is this Ezekiel Elliott situation. Let me tell you something, folks. This is a guy who has gotten involved in drug charges and a domestic violence case. And Jerry Jones is already out there saying, I don't expect he'll miss any time. I think he'll be ready for day one. Let me tell you something. If Ezekiel Elliott is ready for day one, but Bryant's had to go through this process, we clearly have an NFL bias here. I'm not trying to be that guy, but clearly we've got something going on.
What I'm amazed... Well,
I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. See,
how does this guy not miss time?
See, here's the thing. He hasn't missed time because no charges were ever brought against him.
Yeah.
So this has been thrown into the slow grinding mill of the NFL's investigation team.
Okay, but don't you think it's strange that the police were like, no, we don't want to investigate this?
Yes. I mean, to me, if there were no charges brought and he was never formally charged with a crime, then why are we even having this discussion?
Yeah. I mean,
but now there's got to be something there for this thing to have drug on from the time he was drafted.
Yes.
And here we are fixing to hit his second season. There's something there.
And this is not the first time drugs has come up with this guy. You know, marijuana charges, that type of thing. Look, again, I hate to be that guy, folks, but I'm just saying, Martavis Bryant, you look at what he's gone through. Ezekiel Elliott may not even miss a game, may not even be investigated, period. It's just ridiculous.
He's been investigated, but I can't believe, like you said, if this thing turns, you know, it'll be very interesting if they find something, then what happens to him? What kind of suspensions are we talking about?
Yeah.
What are they going to try him under? But I'm sure that whatever happens will be much more well-defined than what has happened to Martavis Bryant.
Yeah, that's exactly right, yeah. And again, like I said, I don't want to be that guy, but it is something that I'm watching very, very closely. But look, am I excited? Not really. Until Martavis Bryant actually gets fully reinstated, then I'll be happy. Now, I'm excited to see him, period. It's going to be so fun to see him on the field. I'm not sure if the Steelers would play him on Friday night. Don't you think they... Yeah, they'd probably still... With him missing so much time. Yeah, I agree.
I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a reason to.
No, yeah. But I mean, look...
3 more games. I mean, if this is drug out to the final preseason game, then maybe
at that point,
they'll try to get him on the field a little bit. But first preseason game with the starters playing so little, I don't think they would do that.
Sure. But look, it is a big step for him. He can now participate in practices. He can now finally get acclimated with the offense, get back in rhythm with Ben. Because, look, he has not even been able to participate in camp, period. So now he at least gets to do that. I'm happy for him, but I want the full reinstatement. So if you ask me, are you happy? Not really. Not until he fully gets reinstated am I going to be very happy. And in other news, not really any news here, Le'Veon Bell has still not reported to the Steelers. He's still in Miami working out. Like I said,
so let me ask you this. All right, so what's Steeler Nation saying about it? I mean, what's the end game here?
I can tell you what Kevin Colbert said today in an interview.
Okay.
He said, quote unquote, this does nothing but hurt Le'Veon Bell. He said, as of right now, there is no conversation to be had with Bell's agent. He said he is not here right now. He said, so we're looking at other guys. And he said the words, and I quote, this does not help him. Folks, Chris and I talked about this back when we did the Le'Veon Bell and Kirk Cousins show where they didn't sign their deals, or the Steelers and Skins didn't get their deal done with them. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not a weak front office. They are not the kind of front office that bends the knee to players holding out. They are a strong, stable front office. And as I've said before, if Kevin Colbert publicly comes out and talks, that means something. Colbert is a man of few words. He kind of does things behind the scenes. And if he himself comes out and says, this does not help you, Le'Veon, that does not help you, Le'Veon.
Well, the other thing that I found interesting today, I don't know if you noticed it, but Devontae Freeman signed...
Yeah, he got a new deal.
And his deal is essentially worth $8 million a year.
Okay, I'll ask you, did it do nothing but just make Bell look like even more of an idiot?
Yes.
I mean, not to be that blunt, I'm just saying.
Yes, when I saw that deal, and what was further interesting about that is I was reading, and I was just reading an article on ESPN.com, and I can't remember who wrote it, but no, it wasn't ESPN.com. I think it was a Twitter feed, but they were saying that the top paid running back in 2004 was making $8 million a year, and I can't remember who it was. Mm-hmm. But what this guy was saying is essentially the running back market has regressed.
Yeah,
13 years.
Yes,
basically.
So basically, what you're saying is Bell. The number that the Steelers offered Bell is historic.
Yes,
yeah.
I mean. The number that he got is a number that clearly most running backs aren't going to see.
And here's another thing to put into perspective, folks. Devontae, if you looked at the details of Devontae Freeman's contract, $30 million over 3 years.
Yeah.
Bell's was 30 over 2.
2, that's right.
And $12 million per. To me, I read the guaranteed money, I read that deal, and I thought, holy cow, this does nothing but make you look like even more of a dummy for not taking this deal.
I agree.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about it, already, but it's really disappointing what's happening. And then with Kevin Colbert coming out and saying this does nothing but hurt him.
Well, let me ask you. All right, so as far as is there some sort of a cutoff where if Le'Veon has not signed it, that there's a point of no return? Or since he hasn't signed it, then he's just kind of a free agent and it doesn't really...
Look, if he does not sign that, he is not under employment right now by anybody. That's the thing. Now, in terms of a cutoff date, I believe he has officially until midway through the season to sign. Now, at that point, and this is why it's silly, at that point, you do not get the full $12 million.
Right, you get a prorated...
You get a prorated, that is exactly right. If you sign... And you talked about this. This is one thing you talked about in that show we did. It makes no sense for Bell to not just go ahead and sign it. That's 12.12 right there. It's fully guaranteed. It's on the table. Take it.
I don't understand where he's going with this.
Well, look,
I really don't.
I think in a lot of ways he's probably trying to avoid injury. He's down in Miami with his cousin Jalen. He's training. Now, look, one thing I will say to cut Bell a little slack, he is training. I don't know if you follow him on Snapchat, but the videos he's been posting have been incredible. He looks great. He's in shape. And again, that's not the issue here. I knew Bell's going to be in good shape. I know he's going to work hard. For me, it's just a moral thing. For me, it's just a character thing. Show up to camp. You're not above everybody. That type of thing. So that pretty much does it for news headlines for us. In the way of injuries, pretty much the same guys. We did have one new injury. That was Alejandro Villanueva. He's being evaluated for a concussion right now. This was following the Tuesday practice, so I was a little bit worried. Good news, though, he did come to Steelers practice today, and he was in pads. Now, he did not participate in a full capacity, but he did do some light drills, that type of thing, and he was in pads. So obviously, you hear the word concussion, you get pretty scared. But the fact that he came out in pads and was there on the field, that does speak. That it's got to mean that it's not that bad.
That's right.
Yeah, and that was promising. James Conner is still being held out due to his AC joint sprain. He also was not listed on the recently released preseason depth chart. But when you look at the past couple of practices, he, very much like Villanueva, has been coming down there in pads, doing some light drills, that type of thing. It's got to be like any day now. And if the Steelers are smart, I'd keep him out for this first game against the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
Hold him out one more week. Look, if it were up to Connor, I'm sure he'd want to be out there right now. This guy's a fighter. This guy's a competitor. But he's probably ready to go. It's probably just a matter of the Steelers being as precautious as they can. Cameron Sutton, he is still dealing with this lower body injury of his. I think it's a hamstring is what they're calling it. Good news, though, Cameron Sutton was on the field today, and he was in pads. Now, very much like Villanueva and Connor, he did not fully participate. But to see him down there in pads finally, that was a very encouraging sign. Sinquez Golson, he's still out. He's also still on the team at this point. So I guess the Steelers are going to go ahead and pull him through the preseason once he can get healthy and get on. It's probably going to be any day now for him as well. Probably isn't going to play Friday, of course, but probably will get to spend a couple of games in the preseason. Sammy Coates is still recovering from his knee surgery. He has been spotted down on the sidelines running in full capacity, running at full speed, catching some balls, running some routes. And a lot of people seem to be ranting and raving about that. I still think Sammy's chances at this point are bleak to make this team. He still could. There seems to be a group of people that think the Steelers would keep 7 wide receivers and that Sammy could somehow still get on the roster that way. I personally don't see that, but I have been wrong before. And then Keon Adams, he is still dealing with his shoulder injury, and he was also not listed on the initial preseason depth chart, so got to imagine he doesn't go Friday night as well. That pretty much does it for our injuries. Chris, let's kick it over to you now. In the way of news headlines, there's one thing, I'll turn the mic over to you, but there's one thing in particular I need to ask you about. What the heck is wrong with Brashaud Breeland? Well, what's going on here?
That's the $64,000 question right now.
Yeah. What do we have here?
Well, it's not uncommon for players to get kicked out of practice for fighting. That's somewhat standard.
Sure.
But what was not standard is this happened during a walkthrough. So this was not during the...
It's not like there was contact.
Right. This was not... Yeah. This was just during the walkthrough phase, and so it bears the question, okay, why are you hand checking the guy, the receiver in front of you? Why are you jamming him on a walkthrough? So...
Who did he get into it with? Do we know?
He jammed Terrell Pryor pretty hard. And Pryor obviously voiced his displeasure, and at some point, some other players began to kind of talk to Brashaud, and the coach, his position coach, began to talk to him, and Brashaud reacted just in a very
Just went off
bad way. Yeah. And at that point, Gruden could be heard saying, "Look, get me another corner. Just get me another corner," and told Brashaud to leave. Now, he came back at the last part of practice, the actual live practice, and was fine. The biggest thing that I can say is that right now, Brashaud Breeland has built this wall around himself. Like, it's me against the world.
Yeah.
And when you do that in anything in life, football, any sort of walk of life, you tend to be very defensive. You tend to be very, I don't know.
Paranoid.
Almost paranoid.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Any kind of a scratch,
and you're off. Yeah.
You're off and running. And right now, Brashaud Breeland's got to get out of his own head. Mm-hmm. He really does.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, obviously the disciplinary thing is one thing, but let's talk about his camp performance. When you read what the scouts are saying, the guy's not doing well in camp either.
Well, it's okay. I agree that what we are seeing, when you see the little clips on Twitter or Instagram,
sure,
they're highlight type clips, and he's getting posterized. That probably just adds to the frustration.
Yeah.
I do remember one play in particular last week that was put up on Twitter. The one-handed catch by it was a catch by Ryan Grant.
Okay.
And if you know how we feel about Ryan Grant, it was such a shock to see him make that catch. But what I was more interested in is Brashaud Breeland's body language. And he dropped his head immediately after the catch and just looked like a guy that was like, oh boy, here we go again. Mm-hmm. And I think right now Brashaud Breeland is sort of in a no man's land. One of the worst things you can have as a cornerback is a memory. Mm-hmm. You've got to have a short memory as a corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to get beaten.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. You got to forget about it, and you got to get to the next play.
Yep.
It's going to happen. It happens to everybody. Every Hall of Fame corner that is in there right now got beat at some point.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's true.
And you have to be able to absorb it and move on and learn from it. And right now, Brashaud Breeland is just in a very unhappy no man's land.
Yeah.
What you don't see in camp are the good plays he makes.
Yeah.
And that's what's tough.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure what eats on him is hearing about, hey, man, I saw you got posterized today by so-and-so. Oh, yeah, I saw you got your lunch ate for you, there in practice today. What you don't see, and every now and again little blurbs will get put up, you'll see him defending a slant perfectly. You'll see him knocking away an out pattern. But nobody really talks about that part of it. But it's going to be very interesting going forward how this plays out.
Yeah.
It really, really is. A lot of people, and I'm one of them, feel like he did not handle the Josh Norman signing well at all.
Yeah.
I think he had a higher opinion of himself than obviously the Redskins did, and I don't think he's really gotten over that.
Yeah.
And I think so much of that is up here. That's why I say he's got to get out of his own head.
Yeah. Just go out there and play.
If he wants to get where he wants to go, he's got to put all this stuff behind him, figure out a way to get to a square one and start over. Because this guy has talent.
Oh, definitely.
But you watch him, sometimes he's guessing, sometimes he's not turning around and looking for the football, and then other times he plays it right. But going forward, it'll be very interesting to see how this works out.
Okay. All right.
It's something that's definitely worth watching.
Yeah. Anything else on the news headline?
I guess really the only new injury was Josh Dotson pulled a hamstring.
Oh, yeah. I meant to ask you about that. Big
but it's
deal?
slight. No,
okay.
It's a slight hamstring strain. I think they're just being cautious with it.
All right.
He's not going to play tomorrow night.
That's probably a good thing.
Jamison Crowder's not going to play tomorrow night. In fact, the only receiver in the starting pack will be Terrell Pryor. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
All right.
Perfectly fine with that.
You ready to move to preseason?
Yeah. You want to go or you want me to go?
I'll go ahead and go first.
Okay.
I guess the biggest narratives for the Steelers in the preseason, I'll start with Josh Dobbs, who, by the way, today it was announced that Joshua Dobbs, Chris, is the starter tomorrow, Friday versus the New York Giants. Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger is not going to play, and Landry Jones is still dealing with this, I think, abdominal injury of his. So Josh Dobbs, there you go, fanboys and girls. Woo! He's getting the start. And look, I think I speak for every Steelers fan here when I say that Dobbs is going to be one of the biggest narratives in the Steelers preseason for a number of reasons. Number one, he's one of the new kids on the block. We're always curious to see the new faces. And number two, that guy named Ben Roethlisberger has been flirting around with that evil R word. Don't know the day or the hour or the time, but and look, I'm not even sure Ben Roethlisberger knows the day or the hour or the time. He's been pretty wishy-washy on the whole thing, saying, hey, I'm not going to commit to playing, but I certainly hope I can come back and play in 2018. So Ben, I don't even think Ben knows when he's going to retire. But what I think we do know is that the light is probably at the end of the tunnel for him. He probably does see the end of the road. And the big question here is when Ben finally does call it quits, can Josh Dobbs be the future? And I think the answer to that question is possibly yes. I mean, I don't think that's a dramatic answer to that question. I think possibly yes. It's going to depend on his development more than anything. Not only his development, but I would say the timing of his development.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I mean, you don't want this to go at the rate, say, Landry Jones' development did. I felt like Landry finally made that first big step like last season.
Yeah.
I think finally when we watched that Cleveland Browns game last season, we could say, holy cow, he finally did a thing. Dobbs, on the other hand, his development has got to go at a faster pace than Jones did. But look, and I really mean it when I say this, Josh Dobbs has the makings of a great NFL quarterback. He's got the size. He's got the arm. He's got the mobility. He's got the smarts and the football IQ. I mean, every tool is on the table to make this guy into a great NFL quarterback. I mean, wouldn't you kind of agree?
Yeah, I mean, physically he seems to have all the traits. But, this is where these guys, these preseason games are... Yeah, I remember the other day Kirk Cousins said something that I thought was very interesting. If you're a backup quarterback, training camp and these preseason games, these are your Super Bowls.
Yes. No, they really are.
This is where you begin to sort of get in people's minds,
yep.
Hey, this kid can do this.
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot easier to think in those terms with good performances.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you've got a Hall of Fame quarterback in front of you talking about retiring. And look, I think we all know Landry Jones is not the long-term solution. Nor will this guy ever be. Dobbs, on the other hand, could possibly be.
Look, he could
Keyword
turn
there was could.
Yeah, I mean, he may turn into a Landry Jones.
Oh, no, that's a very good point. Look, I'm not ready to jump the gun on the guy yet, but I will say that all of the attributes are here on the table to make this guy a great NFL quarterback. He's also reportedly had a very strong camp. He has really been turning a lot of heads at camp. That's exciting, too. But here's what I want to see out of Landry Jones this preseason. Josh Dobbs. I don't need him to be perfect, Chris. I don't need him to have a perfect passer rating. I don't need him to have a perfect completion percentage. I don't need him to go 20 of 20 for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. To me, that's an unrealistic thing to ask of him right now. I just want to see steady growth and steady improvement. I want to see him feel the pressure of a real NFL game. I want to see the timing and accuracy of his throws. I want to see his overall decision-making. That's a big thing I'll be looking at. Pocket presence, just these little things that I'm looking for. And I'll also tell you this, I want to see Josh Dobbs probably play an entire game. I don't need to see Landry Jones. Now, will Jones probably play? Yes, probably. But look, we know what we have in Landry Jones. And I think Landry Jones has kind of reached his ceiling. I think I know exactly what we have in him. Yeah. Dobbs, on the other hand, I hope we see a whole lot of him. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm looking for out of Dobbs this preseason. Going to be exciting to watch him, and really all the draft picks for that matter. TJ, Juju, Cam Sutton, James Conner, Brian Allen, Keon Adams. I'll even throw Colin Holba some love. Can't wait to see that boy snap that football, baby. It's going to be an exciting thing to watch, man. But yeah, it's always fun to watch the new guys. They're the new faces in town, so it's fun to see what they can do. TJ Watt, he's reportedly been having a very strong training camp, so it's going to be fun to watch him translate that into a preseason game. This is the future of outside linebacker, fingers crossed. Juju Smith-Schuster, excited to see this guy. I think more specifically with Juju, I'm excited to see the war between he and Eli Rogers for snaps in the slot. We all know that AB and Martavis are going to be your outside guys, so the obvious spot for Juju to start is the slot, but we've got Eli Rogers, who was the established slot guy, last year. Right. So I think preseason's really going to hash out who gets the bulk of these slot snaps. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. Cameron Sutton, really hope this guy can finally get on the field after missing so much time with his injury. James Conner, I think the thing with Conner, man, I'm just excited to see this guy, period. Whether it's running, blocking, getting involved in the passing game, special teams, I just can't wait to see number 30, period. Brian Allen, this is a very interesting one I'll be watching for. I feel very confident in saying that our five cornerbacks are going to be William Gay, Artie Burns, Ross Cockrell, Cody Sensabaugh, and Cameron Sutton. I don't think anybody's going to debate with me on those being your first five. The question is, who's going to be your sixth guy? And right now, I think it's between Brian Allen and Mike Hilton, this undrafted free agent out of the University of Ole Miss, who has just been having a massive camp thus far. And right now, I think Hilton's probably the favorite. Mike Hilton today, Carnell Lake, our defensive backs coach, is on a radio interview today just going off about Hilton. Hilton also had a very strong camp reportedly today. So if Brian Allen wants to sneak onto this roster, it's got to be a strong preseason performance. So that's going to be a fun one I'm watching. Keon Adams, 7th-round draft pick out of Western Michigan. Okay, here's the thing about Adams. It really is going to come down to how the Steelers decide to distribute their linebackers. They're going to keep 10 linebackers total. No question there. But the question is, how are they going to do it? Are they going to keep 5 inside and 5 outside, or 6 outside, 4 inside? If they keep 6 outside linebackers, then there's no problem. Keon Adams and Arthur Moats will both make the team. But if the Steelers only decide to keep 5 outside linebackers, we've got an all-out war between Keon Adams and Arthur Moats. And right. Moats is not, I've heard nothing out of Moats in terms of camp. And I also think we know what we have in Arthur Moats. He is what he is. He's not, a huge contributor to this team at this point. Not to mention, he's due to make $2.5 million this year. That's something that's unattractive. So if Keon Adams flashes and has himself a massive camp, and the Steelers decide to keep 5 outside linebackers, I think Adams sneaks onto the roster and beats a guy like Arthur Moats. So it'll be fun to watch him. And then defense. This is last but not least. I kind of want to see this brand new defense in action. One of the big narratives of this offseason has been the transformation of this defense. Players have been talking about it. Coaches have been talking about it. Some players going as far as to say this is a Super Bowl caliber defense. I'm not quite prepared to go there yet. But I'm really just curious to see this new defense in action. I think it all starts with man coverage. After the AFC Championship game, I think all of us in unison, fan base, coaches, players, were all screaming, stop with the zone, time to play more man-to-man coverage. And that's been the biggest thing that this coaching staff has been working on in the offseason, is the implementation of man coverage. So I'll be excited to see that in action. One of the other big things is the desire to be a more consistent pass-rushing team. When you watch the Steelers last season, it was kind of a polarizing season because the first half of the year, no pass rush to speak of. Second half of the year, we blew up, became amazing at pass rushing. So, it's going to be fun to see this preseason, the work we've made in the pass rush. And then I would say slot guy. Chris, right now, I think we 100% know Artie Burns and Ross Cockrell are going to be your outside corners. But who is the slot guy right now? I don't think any of us know that right now. We could go with tried and true William Gay. We could go with rookie Cameron Sutton. Maybe Mike Hilton sneaks onto the roster and he can be the day one slot guy. Or Cody Sensabaugh. Cody Sensabaugh has reportedly been having a very nice camp. So maybe he could be the slot guy. But right now, Chris, I don't think any of us know who our day one slot guy is. So I think preseason is going to work that situation out. So those are kind of my big things I'll be watching for. Really? Just those few things. Just those one or two.
I was laughing at the look of contentment. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's it. Just those several little items.
Well, hey, I think you really hit what, I'm always interested in the draft picks.
Yeah.
Very interested to see how Jonathan Allen does.
Mm-hmm.
the Mike Jones, who writes for the Washington Post, is about as level-headed and even-keeled a reporter. So, in other words, when you read his reports, he's not using hyperbole. If he says a guy's good, he feels
they're
like
probably
this guy's
pretty
good.
yeah.
He's pretty stingy with his praise. And he said the other day that, look, it's time to move Jonathan Allen up to the ones because he's decimating second-team offensive linemen right now.
Well, not to mention, I mean, you draft a guy in the first round.
Well, no, he's not beefing about that. He's just saying right now, out of the gate, this guy is already dominating. Some veterans that are on the second team. It's time to get him at the first, see what he's going to do consistently.
Yeah,
And Jim Tomsula, the defensive line coach, has a crazy rotation right now. There's no way, nobody can tell who's going to be the starters, who's the second guy. It's just been he's just been rotating guys in and out. But my point is, Mike Jones is saying that, look, this kid's ready.
Yeah.
This dude's ready.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see him. Very excited to see Ryan Anderson. I expect to get a good look at him.
Well, and you probably
tonight.
will with Junior Gillette and this little injury he's got.
Right. I mean, I'm not sure how much you're going to see Gillette.
Sure.
But you will see him some tomorrow night. And, it is going to be interesting. Right now, Kendall Fuller looks like he's got a lock on the slot position. Breeland on the other side. Josh Norman, obviously, in his, on the other side. Safety, Swearinger and Sua Cravens. But the backside of that is going to be interesting. Does Will Blackman play?
Yeah.
We're not going to see Fabian Moreau or Monte Nicholson, I don't think, but they've been slowly increasing their workload as camp has progressed. I think it will be interesting. DeShazer Everett's a guy that has had a strong camp. We'll see if he makes a run at that the second team's safety position. Linebacking wise, I'm kind of like you. We kind of know who's gonna make it.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting. I'm kind of interested to see Zach Brown.
Oh yeah.
See him play in a Redskin uniform. On the offensive side of the ball, I mean, we're only going to see Terrell Pryor from the receiving corps. No Jordan Reed. But one of the things Kirk Cousins said too the other day I think it was yesterday at his press conference is, look, the great quarterbacks go out there and play with whoever's out there. He said, so I'm excited to go out there and just line up and play with whoever.
Yeah.
One receiver to watch is Matt Hazel. He's an undrafted free agent, and he has been catching everything that has been thrown at him. Maurice Harris, who kind of made a run last year from undrafted free agent to active, caught like 13 passes a year ago. He's been hampered by a knee injury. So Matt Hazel has kind of been this year's Mo Harris as far as showing up out of nowhere, putting good work out there. And I'm kind of interested to see how he plays because, hey, right now he could make a run at this thing at the back end of that receiving corps. Very interested to see Robert Davis, our 6th-round pick.
Yeah.
Don't expect Kirk to play beyond maybe one or two possessions.
No. What you think Kirk is going to play tomorrow?
Yeah, he's going to play.
Whoa, risky? Risky much?
No, that's kind of how Gruden's always done. I mean, it's just your starters are going to play. I mean, I guess if Kirk had an injury history, or a minor problem, you probably wouldn't. But I think he's ready to play. He said he's looking forward to getting out there in a live game situation. I'm kind of waiting to see how they're going to divvy up the second and third team reps. Yeah. How long does McCoy stay in? How long does Sudfeld get to play? I would be shocked if Rob Kelly played. So we are going to get a decent. I'd say we're going to get at least a quarter's worth of work out of Samaje Perine. Mm-hmm. So I think most Skins fans are kind of excited to see how he runs.
New kid.
But the second part of that running back, room is going to be very interesting because you got Mac Brown, Matt Jones, And who's the other? Oh, well, Chris Thompson, but Chris is locked to make the team. But a couple of beat writers have been saying, hey, don't sleep on Matt Jones here. Don't completely.
I forgot Matt Jones existed.
Right. They're saying,
I mean,
this guy, don't count him out of your thoughts when you're kind of kicking around your roster. So maybe Matt Jones turns some heads.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. There was for a couple of weeks there, I actually thought he was off the Redskins because nobody was talking about him.
He's had a very quiet camp, but I've talked to. There's been a couple of people that I've kind of reached out to on Twitter, and they have been, saying, "Hey, he's looked good. He's looked good." I don't know what that means. Could a big couple of games get him onto this roster? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. But again, I look at preseason. This is just like the first quarter of a game.
Yeah.
And next week you add a little bit more to the puzzle. The main thing, the Redskins have a lot of players that I look at and say, listen, I don't care if they play a down. Let's just get to the regular season.
Oh, absolutely.
Trent Williams, Jordan Reed. You know what I mean? I could go on and on. So there's a part of me that would just as soon not see Trent Williams on the field.
I'd be more than happy if Brown and Ben never played
That's
a single
what I'm saying. I mean,
game
there's
at all.
guys that are just irreplaceable.
Yeah.
That you would hate to see go down in a preseason game and think I lost this guy in a game that meant nothing.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Anyway, that's my main thought. Get out of this thing healthy. Let's get to the next one. I think it's going to be good. Guys are tired of hitting each other. They're getting sort of the camp blues.
Yeah.
They're ready to hit somebody that is not their own teammate that they've been lining up across from for the last 2 weeks. So, I think the guys are excited.
I need someone else to destroy.
Yeah, so that's kind of my view on the first preseason game. But I do want to throw this out there, okay?
Throw it.
If you're a Redskin fan, you need to go follow Scott McLuhan on Twitter.
Oh, man.
It is priceless.
Did that not break your heart today, though? That was a sad tweet, dude. And then,
well, I think Scott is in a good place, but it is sad to think that we had that guy.
Well, not only that, but
the
reaction to that tweet, just people with like crying gifs from movies.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Redskin Nation.
You're talking about the one where he talked about
how much he missed. How much he missed the
players.
Redskins.
The guy that he left out, he said, missed the players, coaches. The owner didn't say anything about Bryce Allen. That's right. I said Bryce. It's the way I pronounce it. It's where I'm from.
Yeah. Don't make fun of him.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to.
It's my pronunciation.
Yep.
But anyway, last night he answered fans. I think I had fallen asleep, but he answered fans' questions very, very candidly about, hey, what do you think about the draft board? What do you think about this guy? What do you think about that guy? And he was just straight up answering this stuff. So go follow this dude.
Still winning.
Off the field.
Still winning off the field. Still
Exactly.
beating Bryce Allen.
Somewhere, at some point, I really expect Allen to have a Twitter feed.
Yeah, to kind of retaliate.
Yeah. Some in the back of my mind, I think he's going to do that.
Everybody go block him. Just block him.
I mean, he may have one follower. Vinny Serrato might be his only follower. Maybe.
Yeah. Or that one Redskins fan who didn't like Scott McLuhan.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to meet that fan.
No, I don't either.
But anyway,
I'm not a fan.
That's all I got.
How about really quick? How about the dude at Redskins camp? I actually followed him on Twitter today. I think it's like Redskins Man. He like showed up to camp in like a tux or like a suit, but it was like Redskin pants and Redskin jacket, just like the logo all over him.
I have not seen that.
Oh yeah, like Redskins, like the website retweeted him. They wrote an article about him. The guy's just a psycho Redskins guy. Shout out to you, Redskins Man. You're a great American. Chris, that about wraps it up for me. You?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, guys. Remember, follow us on Twitter. We are at Steelskin Show. Like the show on Facebook, facebook.com/Steelskin Show. YouTube, you know what to do. Please watch the videos, comment below, and subscribe. And iTunes. Remember, if you're listening on iTunes, please rate, subscribe, and write a review. That's really going to help us out. All right, everybody. Happy preseason. Happy football. Until next week, good night.